Howdy, readers. I'm Jason. This is Chapter and Verse, and I'm coming to you this evening with a tag. I don't frequently do tags anymore, as many of you have probably noticed, but I do try to get the occasional tag out. And this tag is the A to J tag, and it was created by Jim at Jim's Books, Reading, and Stuff, which is a channel that's new to me, so I need to give it a look. And I was tagged to do this by my friend Sina over at Beating Around the Books, which is a brand new channel. She's got, I don't know, maybe 5 videos up now, something like that. And she's just doing wonderfully. And if you haven't checked out her channel yet, you should by all means. This shouldn't take too long, I don't think. It seems to be kind of just a down and dirty, kind of quick answer tag. Number 1, A is for author. Which author have you read the most books by? So for including plays as books, which I go back and forth on, but for the purposes of this tag, I'm going to give 2 answers. If we include plays as books, then definitely Shakespeare, and you can see some of our Shakespeare behind me there. And I have read 23 of Shakespeare's plays. If we're just talking about actual books, works of nonfiction, works of fiction, the answer to that question would be Henning Mankell. And this is his novel Italian Shoes. And I have read 12 of his books. And I just find him to be a marvelous writer. For those of you who love good mysteries or crime fiction, he has a series featuring a detective named Kurt Wallander. There are 10 novels in that series, as well as a kind of an additional novella and a book of short stories. And I have read all 10 of the primary novels in that series. Italian Shoes is a standalone, and it's wonderful. It's just beautiful. And look at that cover. Just perfect for the winter time. But yeah, I've read a dozen Henning Mankell books. Number 2, B is for Black History Month. What are your reading plans for Black History Month? We are in the midst of Black History Month, but I'm not reading anything at all for it, really. I watched a couple of films from African-American filmmakers this month, but again, it wasn't done consciously for Black History Month. They were choices of Lukash's in our Wednesday night film club. We watched Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, and then last night we watched the 40-year-old version, not virgin, but version, and they were both quite good. I preferred the latter, I think, to Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. Number 3, C. C is for currently reading. What are you currently reading? Many of you know this already because I've talked about it on my channel this last weekend, but I am currently reading The Western Wind by Samantha Harvey, and I haven't made much progress in it past where I was this last weekend, so apologies for that. Nothing new to report. Number 4, D is for drink. What is your drink of choice while reading? Definitely, if it's morning or during the day, right, on the weekends, coffee, just black coffee with a little half and half in it, no sugar. And that's just heaven to me. Usually just 1 large cup. Occasionally I'll have 2. But if it's in the evening, a glass of wine, either Pinot Noir or Riesling, was really, really quite nice, or a gin and tonic. And actually I'm going to be polishing off the last of my gin tonight because I'm giving up drinking for Lent this year, which is going to help with a lot of things. I think it's going to help with my health and kind of kickstart my weight loss in a way that I've been having trouble doing, and it's going to help me tackle my mammoth in March, I believe, which you can see right there. Red comments, but because if I have a couple of drinks in the evening, I don't know, it just tends to make concentrating a little tiny bit harder. So it'll be good to have a clearer head, I suppose, in the month of March, tackling that big 1,000-page book. Number 5, E is for ebook or physical book. What is your preference? Definitely physical book. I have never read an ebook. I have never owned an e-reader. I can't imagine ever doing so. I suppose circumstances could be such in the future that I would feel like it was necessary, but yeah, I don't like even just the idea of reading a book on a tablet. There's something about the way, and I've talked about this in the past on my channel. There's something about the way that I process what I read that I don't think would lend itself to an e-reader. So, for instance, right, if I take The Western Wind, and if I were to recall a passage from it, I think spatially, right, and I don't do this consciously, it's just how my brain works. But if somebody says, oh, what was that passage in The Western Wind? Where was it? For instance, in my book club, I'm reading this from my book club right now. And when we talk about it, if somebody were to say, where was that passage? And if I remembered where it was, which oftentimes I will do because I have a good memory, I remember it as being approximately a third of the way through the book on the right-hand side, halfway down. And I can find it quite quickly, quite easily. Yeah, and I've been told that there are ways to track down passages quickly with an e-reader as well, like if you know a few keywords or something like this, but it's not as much fun. Yeah, I can't imagine it would be nearly as much fun. This way I feel a little bit like a detective. Number 6, F is for favorite fictional character. I was going to give you guys a few, because there's so many characters I love, obviously, but when push comes to shove, I think I'm just going to give you the character that is probably my all-time favorite character. And I thought it would be good to mention him as well, because a couple of people I know are going to be reading this book for March of the Mammoths. So my favorite fictional character is from Charles Dickens' Our Mutual Friend, and it is Eugene Wrayburn. And so the people I know who don't like Dickens, and thankfully there aren't many of them, but the people I know who don't like Dickens, one of their complaints about Dickens is that his characters are more caricatures, right? That they're kind of cartoons, and on some level, while that's true for many of the characters, I don't think we can dismiss those characters. I think Dickens is doing very, very interesting things with these kind of broad stroke, kind of lampooned characters in his novels. I think he's doing really fascinating things with them. Eugene Wrayburn is evidence that he is capable of so much more than just that. Eugene Wrayburn he's one of these characters who just leaps off the page. He feels so much like a real person. I mean, there are other protagonists in literature that I can compare him to. I could compare him to, but I don't know. I think I'll just kind of let him stand on his own. I haven't read this in many years. It's been probably 13 years, 14 years maybe even since I've read this, but man, it's just a tremendous novel, and I love his character so much. Just a fully realized human being on a page. It's just a pleasure to read. Number 7, Georgia. G is for Georgia. Do you know any famous Georgians? Right, the country and not the state. I can't say that I am familiar with any off the top of my head, but there is a film that I'm going to be watching this week called Beginning that I've been just dying to see, and it was directed by a woman from Georgia, the country, not the state, and her name is D. Kulumbegashvili. D. Kulumbegashvili. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. Anyway, yeah, I'll report back in my Sunday ramble with the yarn when I get around to watching that and let you guys know what I think. 8. H is for horror. Is there a book that really scared you? Well, there are 2, only one of which we own. The first is Salem's Lot by Stephen King. The TV film from when I was a kid, I was probably 4 or 5 years old, scared the hell out of me when I was a little boy. And when I finally got around to reading the novel, which was just a couple of years, I think, into mine and Kelly's marriage, I was reading we were in bed one night and I was reading, and the wind kind of popped the screen door loose, and it was rattling, and Kelly just kind of looks over at me and she's like, "Are you going to take care of that?" And I said, I'll take care of it in the morning. The book was just freaking me out too much. and I didn't want to go deal with a screen door in the middle of the night. But the other book, the one that we do own, is The Little Stranger by Sarah Waters. And the interesting thing about this novel is I've read this twice, and I don't think it's anywhere near her best book. But it's still it's a very, very good book. And there is one scene in this novel. If you've read it, I'm not going to spoil anything for anybody, but if you've read it, you'll know what scene I'm talking about. It's the scene in the nursery. And it involves the kind of sliver of light right beneath the door. It involves hearing something, and it involves seeing something out of a window, and a character putting two and two together, and coming to a conclusion that is absolutely chilling. Just absolutely, like the hair on your body will stand up. It's so frightening. Yeah, this is a great novel. Let's see, 9. I is for I don't know, right? Italy, India, Ireland, whatever you choose. So since we're in the midst of winter, and even places like Texas are being hammered, here in Wyoming, a week ago, something like that, we had 3 or 4 days in a row where the temperatures with wind chill were down around 40 degrees below zero Fahrenheit. So since we're in the midst of winter, I thought I would go, I is for icy, and just a good winter read, and that would be The Voyage of the Narwhal by Andrea Barrett. She won the National Book Award for a collection of short stories she did called Ship Fever, which I haven't read yet, but this is a novel of Arctic exploration set, I believe, in the 19th century. And I haven't read it since I was in college, but my memory of reading it, the experience of reading it, is still just so fresh in my mind. My brother had read it just before me, and he knew how many pages I had left in the novel one evening, and he literally just sat out in the kitchen at the dining room table for probably 3 hours while I finished the book, waiting for me to finish the book so we could talk about it, because he loved it so much. And yeah, it's tremendous. It's one of these novels that it places you so completely in that world that you can feel the cold, you can smell the cold. There's a vocal coach channel here on YouTube that I watch occasionally with Kelly called Beth Roars, and she just did a video recently, which I've been meaning to watch, about how you can actually hear the cold. So it'd be interesting to read a novel, like a really great wintry, icy novel, at some point to see if one's ears kind of come into the sensory play as well. Because when you read a book like this, you can feel it and you can smell it if the writer is good enough, and Andrea Barrett certainly is. And number 10 is, what book have you just finished? And that would be Mrs. Dalloway by Virginia Woolf, which I really, really loved. Didn't love quite as much as I thought I was going to as I was making my way through it. The ending fell just a tiny bit flat for me, but it's also one of those things where I suspect on rereading, I'm going to see things in the ending, in the final 30 pages of this, that I didn't see the first time, and I'm going to remember things that my book club members said about the ending that I hadn't picked up on, and they're going to resonate for me, and this could very well end up being a much better book in my mind than I already think it is, and I already gave it 5 stars on Goodreads. So yeah, Virginia Woolf, if you haven't read her fiction, she was remarkable. She may have been the greatest novelist of the 20th century. She may have been. But that's it. We're supposed to tag people. I'm not going to tag anyone, since the second prompt, B writes about Black History Month, is a kind of time-sensitive prompt, and since we're almost through February now, I can't see my way to tagging somebody to do this at this juncture. Maybe their reading for Black History Month is already done. Anyhow, so that's the A to J tag, and I will see you guys again this weekend. Adios.